What if the very thing most people do when they feel distance is actually what creates even more distance? Many people believe that love grows through constant reassurance, endless conversations, and always trying harder. But when emotional walls appear, pushing forward often has the opposite effect. The more pressure that's applied, the more resistance shows up. The truth is, there is one simple shift that changes the entire dynamic. It doesn't involve manipulation, mind games, or pretending not to care. In fact, it's the opposite. It's about understanding human psychology on a deeper level and creating the emotional space where genuine connection can naturally return. Today, we're exploring the one simple thing that can completely transform a relationship dynamic and why it works far better than chasing, convincing, or forcing closeness. One of the biggest mistakes people make when they sense emotional distance is believing that more effort will automatically bring more closeness. The moment communication changes, responses become shorter, or the energy feels different, the natural reaction is often to do more. More messages, more checking in, more attempts to understand what's wrong, and more efforts to pull the connection back to where it once was. It comes from a genuine place of caring, but the problem is that emotional distance rarely responds positively to pressure. When people feel uncertain, they often become focused on finding reassurance as quickly as possible. Every delayed response feels significant. Every change in behavior feels like a warning sign. The mind starts searching for answers, and that search can become exhausting. Instead of allowing the relationship to move naturally, every interaction begins carrying the weight of anxiety and expectation. What many don't realize is that emotional closeness cannot be chased into existence. The harder someone pushes for certainty, the more the relationship can start to feel like a responsibility rather than a source of comfort. Conversations that once felt effortless begin to feel heavy. Simple interactions become loaded with hidden expectations. Even when intentions are good, the energy behind constant pursuit can create tension where there was once ease. This is why stepping back is often far more powerful than pushing forward. Stepping back doesn't mean becoming cold, distant, or pretending not to care. It simply means releasing the urge to control the outcome. It means trusting that genuine connection doesn't need to be forced every single day to remain meaningful. When the pressure disappears, the atmosphere changes. The relationship suddenly has room to breathe again. There is something incredibly attractive about emotional confidence. It's the ability to remain steady even when everything doesn't feel certain. It's the understanding that your value is not determined by another person's level of attention on a particular day. When someone sees that you're not constantly seeking validation, approval, or reassurance, a different dynamic begins to emerge. The connection feels lighter. It feels more authentic. It feels less like an obligation and more like a choice. Ironically, many people discover that the moment they stop chasing is the moment things begin to shift. The endless cycle of pressure and resistance starts to fade. Curiosity has room to return. Conversations become more natural. The emotional intensity that once created distance is replaced by a sense of calm and ease. The truth is that healthy relationships are not sustained by relentless pursuit. They are sustained by trust, patience, and mutual willingness. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is stop trying to force closeness and allow connection to unfold on its own terms. That simple shift often changes everything. For many people, space feels uncomfortable because it is often misunderstood. The moment there is less communication, fewer conversations, or a noticeable change in availability, the mind immediately jumps to conclusions. It starts creating stories about what the silence means. Questions begin to appear. Is something wrong? Has the connection changed? Is interest fading? These thoughts can quickly create anxiety, making space feel like a threat rather than a natural part of any relationship. The truth is that space and rejection are not the same thing. Just because someone becomes quieter or needs time alone does not automatically mean the relationship is in danger. Every person processes emotions differently. Some people work through their thoughts internally. Others need time to recharge, reflect, or simply regain their sense of balance before engaging deeply again. When this natural need for space is interpreted as rejection, unnecessary pressure often enters the relationship. One of the most powerful things a person can do is learn to become comfortable with temporary distance. This doesn't mean ignoring feelings or pretending that nothing matters. It means resisting the urge to panic every time the connection isn't operating at full intensity. Relationships are not meant to exist in a constant state of emotional closeness every single moment of every day. Like anything healthy, they naturally move through periods of connection, reflection, and personal growth. When someone can remain calm during those quieter moments, a different message is communicated. It shows confidence. It demonstrates emotional maturity. Most importantly, it creates an environment where people feel free rather than controlled. No one enjoys feeling like every moment of silence must be explained or justified. Constant demands for reassurance can make even the strongest connection feel exhausting over time. Comfort with space also reflects a strong sense of self-worth. It shows that happiness and emotional stability are not entirely dependent on another person's attention. Instead of spending every moment worrying about what isn't happening, attention can be directed toward personal goals, friendships, passions, and self-development. This creates a healthier balance because the relationship becomes part of life rather than the center of it. Ironically, when people stop fearing space, they often experience more closeness. Why? Because emotional safety begins to grow. The relationship no longer feels like a place where every absence leads to conflict or pressure. It becomes a place where both people can breathe, think, and return willingly. Genuine connection thrives when people feel accepted rather than monitored. Learning to embrace space requires patience, but it is one of the most valuable relationship skills anyone can develop. It allows trust to replace fear, confidence to replace anxiety, and understanding to replace assumptions. When space is no longer viewed as a threat, it transforms into something powerful, a bridge that often strengthens connection instead of weakening it. When a relationship begins to feel uncertain, it's easy to place all of your attention on what is happening between you and the other person. Thoughts become consumed with analyzing conversations, waiting for messages, and looking for signs that everything is okay. What starts as concern can quickly turn into a habit of monitoring the relationship so closely that it begins to affect every part of daily life. The problem is that the more attention is placed on something you cannot fully control, the more powerless and anxious you often feel. This is why one of the most important shifts you can make is bringing your focus back to your own life. Instead of allowing the relationship to become the center of your world, reconnect with the parts of yourself that existed before it. Remember the goals, passions, interests, and dreams that make you who you are. These things are not distractions from the relationship. They are essential parts of a healthy and balanced life. Many people unknowingly place their happiness in the hands of someone else's behavior. A good day depends on receiving attention. A bad day begins with a delayed response. Emotional stability rises and falls based on what another person does or doesn't do. Over time, this creates a cycle where self-worth becomes connected to external validation. The relationship starts carrying a weight it was never meant to carry. Focusing on your own life breaks that cycle. It reminds you that your value does not come from being chosen, approved of, or constantly reassured. Your value already exists. The relationship should add to your life, not define it completely. When you invest energy into personal growth, career ambitions, fitness, hobbies, friendships, or new experiences, you create a stronger foundation within yourself. You begin to feel fulfilled because of who you are and what you're building, not because of the amount of attention you're receiving. There is also something naturally attractive about someone who has a full and meaningful life. People are drawn to those who radiate purpose, confidence, and independence. Not because they are trying to impress anyone, but because they genuinely enjoy their own lives. That energy feels different. It creates a sense of freedom rather than neediness. It shows that while the relationship is valued, It is not the sole source of happiness. Another benefit of focusing on yourself is that it reduces emotional pressure within the relationship. When every need, expectation, and desire is directed toward one connection, the relationship can start to feel overwhelming. But when your life is rich with experiences, goals, and personal fulfillment, interactions become lighter and more enjoyable. Conversations feel more natural because they come from a place of abundance rather than lack. The reality is that the strongest relationships are often built by two people who continue growing as individuals. They support each other, care for each other, and enjoy each other's presence, but they also maintain their own identity. By bringing your attention back to your own life, you not only strengthen yourself, but you also create the conditions for a healthier, more balanced, and more fulfilling connection. When emotions are running high, reacting feels natural. The moment something unexpected happens, a delayed reply, a canceled plan, a change in behavior, or a period of silence, the mind immediately starts searching for answers. In those moments, it's easy to let fear, frustration, or insecurity take control. Words are spoken quickly, assumptions are made, and actions are taken based on emotion rather than understanding. While these reactions may provide temporary relief, they often create more problems than they solve. The challenge is that emotional reactions are usually driven by what we think is happening rather than what is actually happening. A delayed response can suddenly feel like rejection. A quiet day can seem like a sign that the relationship is falling apart. The mind fills in the blanks with worst-case scenarios, and before long, those imagined fears begin influencing real behavior. This can lead to unnecessary arguments, misunderstandings, and emotional tension that could have been avoided. Responding instead of reacting requires a different approach. It means creating a small pause between what happens and how you choose to handle it. That pause is powerful because it gives you time to separate facts from emotions. Instead of immediately assuming the worst, you allow yourself to consider other possibilities. Maybe the situation has nothing to do with you. Maybe there are factors you don't yet understand. Maybe what feels urgent right now will look completely different tomorrow. Emotional maturity is not about suppressing feelings or pretending they don't exist. It's about learning how to manage them effectively. Feelings provide important information, but they should not always dictate behavior. When you respond calmly, you remain in control of your actions rather than allowing emotions to control them for you. This creates a sense of stability that benefits both you and the relationship. There is also a significant difference in the energy people experience when interacting with someone who responds calmly. Emotional reactions often create pressure. They can make conversations feel tense, defensive, or exhausting. A calm response, on the other hand, creates space for understanding. It invites communication rather than conflict. It encourages openness rather than withdrawal. Confidence plays a major role in this process. Confident people understand that not every uncomfortable moment requires immediate action. They do not rush to solve every uncertainty or demand instant answers. They trust their ability to handle situations as they unfold. This patience allows them to navigate challenges with greater clarity and wisdom. Over time, the habit of responding instead of reacting transforms relationships. Small issues remain small instead of becoming major conflicts. Communication becomes healthier because it is based on understanding rather than fear. Most importantly, it creates an atmosphere of emotional safety where both people feel respected and heard. The ability to stay calm when emotions are intense is one of the strongest signs of emotional strength. It shows self-awareness, confidence, and resilience. While reacting may feel easier in the moment, responding thoughtfully is what ultimately builds trust, deepens connection, and creates healthier relationships in the long run. One of the most overlooked aspects of building a strong emotional connection is understanding the difference between creating safety and creating pressure. Many people genuinely want more closeness, more communication, and more understanding, but without realizing it, their approach can sometimes produce the opposite result. The desire for connection is healthy, yet when that desire turns into constant demands, expectations, or emotional pressure, The relationship can begin to feel heavy rather than supportive. Pressure often comes from fear. Fear of losing the connection, fear of being misunderstood, or fear that something is changing. When those fears take over, conversations can become focused on seeking reassurance instead of building understanding. Questions may become repeated. Every interaction may feel like it needs to provide certainty. The relationship slowly shifts from a place of comfort to a place where one person feels responsible for constantly proving their feelings or intentions. The problem with pressure is that it rarely creates genuine openness. People tend to close off when they feel forced to explain themselves, defend their actions, or meet emotional demands they are not ready to meet. Even when the pressure comes from a loving place, it can still feel overwhelming. Instead of encouraging deeper connection, it often creates emotional resistance. The more someone feels pushed, the more likely they are to pull back. Emotional safety works very differently. Safety is created when people feel accepted even during moments of uncertainty. It means allowing conversations to happen naturally instead of forcing them. It means listening without immediately judging, criticizing, or trying to control the outcome. When people know they can express themselves without being attacked, blamed, or pressured, they become far more willing to open up. Safety also requires patience. Not every concern can be resolved immediately. Not every emotion can be explained on demand. Sometimes people need time to process their thoughts before they can communicate them clearly. When that time is respected, trust begins to grow. The relationship starts feeling like a secure place rather than a source of stress. Another important part of emotional safety is acceptance. Acceptance does not mean tolerating unhealthy behavior or ignoring important issues. It means recognizing that people are human. They have different communication styles, different emotional needs, and different ways of handling challenges. When someone feels accepted for who they are rather than constantly pushed to be different, they naturally become more comfortable sharing their authentic thoughts and feelings. Strong relationships are not built on control. They are built on trust. Trust grows when people feel free to be themselves without fearing constant judgment or pressure. The more safety that exists within a relationship, the easier communication becomes. Walls begin to come down, honesty increases, and emotional intimacy develops naturally. At the end of the day, people open their hearts where they feel safe. They withdraw from environments that feel demanding or emotionally exhausting. By focusing on creating safety instead of pressure, you create the conditions where genuine connection can flourish, grow, and deepen over time in a way that feels natural for everyone involved. One of the greatest relationship lessons a person can learn is that genuine connection cannot be forced. No amount of pressure, persuasion, or effort can make emotional closeness happen before it is ready. Yet many people spend countless hours trying to control the outcome of a relationship. They analyze every conversation, worry about every change in behavior, and search for the perfect action that will guarantee closeness. The more they try to manage every detail, the more exhausting the relationship becomes. The truth is that meaningful connection grows best when it is allowed to develop naturally. Relationships thrive when both people feel free to move toward each other because they genuinely want to, not because they feel obligated. When connection becomes something that is constantly demanded, it often loses the ease and authenticity that made it special in the first place. This is why mastering the art of letting connection come naturally is so powerful. It requires a shift in mindset. Instead of focusing on how to make someone feel a certain way, the focus moves toward creating an environment where positive feelings can grow on their own. Rather than chasing certainty, you learn to trust the process. Rather than forcing outcomes, you learn to allow them. One of the biggest obstacles to natural connection is fear. Fear convinces people that they must constantly do something to keep the relationship alive. It creates the belief that if they stop pushing, everything will fall apart. But healthy relationships are not sustained by constant effort alone. They are sustained by mutual interest, mutual respect, and mutual willingness. When those things exist, connection has room to grow without being forced. Patience becomes incredibly important during this process. Patience allows relationships to breathe. It prevents every moment of uncertainty from becoming a crisis. It creates space for emotions to develop at their own pace. Not every meaningful connection unfolds quickly. Some of the strongest bonds are built gradually through consistent trust, understanding, and shared experiences over time. Another essential part of allowing connection to come naturally is maintaining your own sense of identity. When your entire emotional world revolves around a relationship, it becomes difficult to relax and let things unfold. Every interaction starts feeling high stakes. But when you continue investing in your own growth, goals, friendships, and happiness, you bring a healthier energy into the relationship. You are no longer seeking completion from another person because you are already building a fulfilling life for yourself. Ironically, the moment people stop trying so hard to control connection is often the moment they experience more of it. Conversations become easier. Interactions feel more genuine. There is less pressure, less tension, and more freedom. People naturally move closer when they feel they have room to choose closeness, rather than being pushed toward it. At its core, connection is not something that can be manufactured. It is something that emerges when trust, respect, patience, and emotional safety are present. By letting go of the need to force every outcome and allowing relationships to unfold naturally, you create the strongest foundation for lasting closeness. In many cases, what you've been searching for appears the moment you stop trying to control it and simply allow it to grow.